Welcome to Choreography, a podcast about the greatest sport on ice, figure skating. I'm Wendy Buskey.
And I'm Adrian Buskey. And this is our US Summer Sizzler 2025. A recap of a exhibition event seems like the wrong kind of term for it, but we're just going to be talking about it, also covering some other news as well. And I just want to get right into that, because if there was a cliche about the Olympic season, it would be comebacks, right? It's always the return of so-and-so. And a lot of times it's the return of champions or whatever. And we've talked plenty about our feelings about that and how complicated we feel about it. But I don't feel very complicated. And maybe that's not true now that I think about it. But I don't feel very complicated about the return of Canada's Keegan Messing.
I feel no complications about it. I'm stoked.
Yes.
I mean, I'm not going to lie. It is kind of funny considering how much we have had so many complicated feelings about other returns. But as soon as I saw the news about Keegan Messing returning to competition, I literally ran into our bedroom and woke you up. Because I was like, oh my God, it's Keegan. Oh my God.
I'm a late waker and Wen's an early morning kind of person. And so she literally ran into the bedroom, shook me awake, and shoved a phone in my face before I could even think. And it was just like, Keegan Messing's coming back.
I was a little excited. I love Keegan.
But so do I. I think notably with Keegan Messing, he is not like a super decorated medalist. His biggest achievement on the international stage, I believe, was in his final season when he got on the podium and got a silver at Four Continents. That was his biggest international achievement. I believe he is the Canadian national champion. Multi-time. Yeah. Keegan's one of those guys that early in his career, I always thought he was that really fun, kind of quirky guy that I wasn't really ever super impressed with, but I liked him as a personality. But as he matured and got late into his career, he became something I thought was really special. And that last season, he was just so good. That Four Continents performance in his free skate is kind of legendary because it's such a great performance. It's so warm. It so tells the tale of a guy who is at that point at the end of his career and just sort of thanking the crowd and thanking the ice for being home to him for so long. And yet what we've seen in the last couple of years is that he's been consistently doing tours. And when he's been out there doing those tours, Keegs is still out there throwing quads, and he's doing backflips over like 6 people laying on the ice and getting crazy ice coverage. He still looks complete. And every time we'd see him doing quads, we're like, you're doing quads while you're doing stars on ice? Keegs still got it.
Yes. And he said in his interview with Skate Canada that was a big inspiration, was going on the Stars on Ice tour and realizing that he could still do all of the things. And he said he's been putting in the work to make sure that those are consistent again. So he feels like he's in a good place. And not for nothing, backflips are legal now. So we gonna see Keegan Messing doing some crazy backflips in his long program. And I know not everyone is a big fan of those, but Keegan's are the best.
They're the best. Even as much as Ilya and Adam Chalenfant have become so notable for their backflips, Keegan's are the best in the business. The length that he gets in them is absolutely incredible. So
the speed.
Yeah. Now, one of the things that we've been talking about this summer, and particularly in our previous episode, is the Canadian singles competition finally heating up. After a couple of years of really, really soft scores and performances from a lot of the Canadian singles skaters, now the women's competition is heating up with the return of Gabby Daleman, who's putting some pressure on Maddie Schizas, and talk of Sarah Maud Dupuis getting a triple axel. And, and Catherine Midland-Spence is also nobody to forget about in that competition as well.
And neither is their one-time national champion Kaya Reuter.
Yeah. So that women's competition could really be heating up. But it was at Cranberry Cup that we saw a kind of surprise win from Roman Sadovsky, showing up in a way that we haven't seen him do in a long time. And also a very nice showing from Steven Gogolev, particularly in the free skate. So as of like a week ago when we recorded, that was before we knew about Keegan coming back. And we were already like, oh man, it's starting to look like things are really going to happen in Canada. And they've needed this. The return of Keegan is, I would expect, to light a fire under the entire thing, because he is a more complete skater than either of those two guys I just mentioned. He doesn't have the incredible artistry or musicality that Roman does.
I think he does, just in a very different way.
That's fair. I think that Roman has a musical flair to him that is very unique and is part of what really makes him stand out. But Keegan does have a real identity on the ice. He brings a lot of emotion and intention. You see so much of the story he's trying to tell you when he skates, but also his jumps, while they can get a little wild, have always been much stronger.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the key is whenever he's on, his jumps are big and they pop. And I'm very curious to see what we see from all of them. I think it makes the competition extremely interesting for Canada. And there is no guarantee. Seeing how good Roman looked and how big of a comeback Gogolev made from short to long at Cranberry Cup, Keegan is not guaranteed that Olympic spot just because he shows up. So I'm very excited to see what this fire burns for the Canadian men because, like you said, it felt so soft for several years. This is the boost I feel like they need. And I want Roman to rise to the occasion. I want this to be a good competition where it is a fight for that Olympic spot because Roman's the one that earned it.
I think this also highlights another aspect of the Olympic comeback season, which is the uncertainty around some of those returns, because Keegan has been skating in shows, but has not been in competition in 2 years. Gabby Daleman is back and competing for the Canadian women, but she has been out for a couple of years with injury. And even though she looks really sharp so far and she's been flexing on social media with some really great combos, she still isn't long-term tested. And then you get other curiosities like the Shibatani siblings not showing up for Champs Camp and not being a part of the Summer Sizzler for the US, which I don't think reflects on probably their preparation at all, but it's strategically a kind of an odd choice when it seems like that's, as I understand it, essentially a mandatory thing for anybody who's going to be competing for the US on the Grand Prix circuit.
Yeah, it was an interesting thing. And if they were there, I didn't see anything about them. And I believe I saw several people say that they never came. So there could be very valid reasons for that.
Sure.
But
like I said, it's a curiosity. It's one of those things that you just make a note of and say, I can't interpret anything about
no,
that.
Not
it's
at
just
all.
Unusual. But then we're also hearing rumors this week, and we got this one from FS Skating Stand. Haley was mentioning that Sui and Han are not actually listed. I should say China's Sui and Han, who are thought to be coming back this season to compete after winning the Olympics pairs medal 3 and change years ago and having been gone from competition all that time. But Sui and Han are not the team that are being sent to the Olympic qualifying event in September.
They're the subs.
They're the subs, which is unusual. And apparently there's some talk that they may not come back after all, even though they were slotted for competition spots in the Grand Prix.
Yeah, I mean, and that, again, I don't know where that's coming from specifically. We saw Haley on FS Skating Stand talk about it, and she is a trusted source. So I'm curious. It's an interesting thing. As far as I know, they're still coming back, but I don't know. It is all so muddy. And to be fair, the thing we've been concerned about with Han the whole time is the back injury that he had. It's entirely possible that they had all the intent of coming back, and then during their training over the summer, his injury just proved to rear its ugly head again, and they can't do it. So we'll see.
The thing that I have worried about so much with the return of them is that Han had some of the most powerful throws of anybody I've ever seen in pairs skating.
Yeah, I mean, he would just, his footwork into it and the height she would get, incredible.
Yeah, but what I'd also see when I'd go back and watch those performances is how far he reached across his body to put her into that launch position to the point when he threw her. Like, he's really torquing himself to get that crazy throw that sends her so far. It looks incredible, but the toll that would take on him long term, in considering how long their career was, I could imagine that being a source of that problem and being an issue going forward. I'm hoping he's healthy. I would be excited to see them back on the ice, even though that's hypocritical with my usual distaste for the return of champions, because, you know, they're kind of my favorite pairs team ever. But yeah, I mean, mostly I just hope that they're healthy, and I'll be really curious to see what happens with it. And I'm really surprised they're not the team being sent to that qualifier, because I feel like if that other team goes and doesn't qualify, there's no way we see Sui and Han compete through the season.
Not at all. No, that's over.
Yeah.
Well, on a non-return discussion, another program was dropped, if we're talking about news, before we get into the Summer Sizzler. And I only mention it because it amused me. and that is Lila Fear and Lewis Gibson are doing a Scottish-themed free dance. They dropped this news with a fantastic photo shoot. They looked phenomenal.
They always get great photos.
They do. But the music, I Would Walk 500 Miles by the Proclaimers.
That song has a real warm spot in my heart from the 90s and my friends. And so I can't help but grin whenever I hear that song.
And they're so cheeky.
Yeah.
I feel like they could pull that off.
I don't know if that indicates that's the song they're skating to. It seems, as a free skate, seems like an odd choice to me. But at the same time, if anybody could pull it off, it's them.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'll be...
Their post was a little vague.
Yeah.
But we'll see. I'm assuming that's the music. So I don't know. We'll see how it goes, but they looked cool. The other thing I wanted to talk about before we get into Summer Sizzler stuff, if you go look at the listings for the Lombardia trophy that is coming up, their men's competition. I'm just pointing this out in advance because it's essentially an Olympic preview. My jaw dropped when I saw that men's competition is going to include Ilya Malinin, Yuma Kagiyama, Adam Shohimfa, Cal Mura, and Shun Sato. Not to mention Matteo Rizzo and Nikolay Memola. The only person who's really a legitimate medal contender, as far as we know at this point, that's not going to be there is Mikhail Shidorov. So, holy crap, that competition is interesting to say the least.
It reminds me a lot of last year where the season started right off with Ilya versus Yuma.
But then you add Adam in?
Right, yeah. If you want a great kickoff to the season in the Challenger,
I guess we're missing Kevin Amos too. I should not.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Kevin would be a good choice. I mean, there's a lot of other great names, but as far as your heavy hitters, I mean, that's a lot of heavy hitters in one event right off the bat. That Japan is sending 3 men to it.
They're sending who I expect, and they probably expect to be their Olympic team. So I think it's interesting that they're sending all 3 of them to kind of see how the 3 of them all do against each other.
Yeah, that's going to be really exciting. And we'll finally get to see Yuma's 2 spectacular new programs in competition. Find out what Adam's been cooking this whole time, and then really see what Ilya has been doing. He's kind of teased and talked about on social media.
So much teasing.
But as we'll talk about here in the Summer Sizzler, he did not perform any new programs at the Summer Sizzler. So we have not gotten a look at those programs yet.
Adam Shohimfa did drop a teaser for his short program. It said Leonardo da Vinci, and it's essentially a short film on Instagram. So I recommend going to look at it. It looks very cool, very Adam, very dramatic. I dug it.
Yeah.
And I love that Ilya obviously dug it. So that because he commented on it and shared it himself. So I love seeing the sportsmanship and the mutual love.
Speaking of such things, Adam has his own YouTube channel and he drops some pretty cool stuff on there. He obviously has a team helping him make videos and produce things that are a little sharper than just a kind of common vlog. But the one that he posted recently, I liked a lot, not just because it follows his day-to-day and gives you a greater sense of what his training looks like, but that you saw that at that time, Georgia's Nika Agazzi was also training in the same place with him. And the 2 of them really seemed to play off each other well. You could tell that Nico really liked training there. He liked skating alongside, but they both liked skating alongside somebody else who was also throwing quads and big programs, because Adam would talk about how he's not typically on the ice with other skaters of his level in his normal training environment. And so having another elite competitor who could do some of the things he could do only drove both of them further. And you could just tell that Nika really liked training there. He said that he wished he could stay there longer, that he was getting so much out of it. And Nika always just seems like a really sweet guy, and I really liked seeing him in that environment. So super cool.
Well, let's get into the Summer Sizzler, since that's our main focus of this episode. Like you mentioned, Ilya did not perform a new program. He did his running short program from last season, which is always a great program. So no complaints.
Probably the best program I think that he's ever done. And he wore the hoodie outfit for this one.
Oh, yeah. He went back.
I like that. I prefer that outfit over the one that he did eventually. I know that a lot of people weren't really into that, but yeah, that program is so terrific. So I was just happy to see it again.
Yeah, but he's definitely he wants to withhold the announcement and make it very big and dramatic on Instagram, just like Adam did. So
yeah,
I wasn't surprised. Alyssa Liu used a exhibition program as well. So we haven't heard or seen any of her new material yet. And the same could be said for Madison Chalk and Evan Bates. They did their gorgeous scarf program that they've done that scares Adrian out of his mind.
I don't want to see them do that one anymore before the Olympics. After the time where Madison skated over it, cut the silk, and had a hard fall, and you could see how much it terrified Evan on the ice. You know, that was not the face of a competitor. It was the face of a husband worried that his wife was hurt. That's it. I love that program.
It's
gorgeous. Made me cry when we saw it in person. I don't want to see them do it again until after the Olympics.
But everyone else was doing competitive program. Well, is that true? We'll find out as we go along. I can't remember. I wrote them all down. But let's dig into the actual competitive programs. First, Isabeau Levito. She did her short program again that we had seen at the Cranberry Cup. Her Sophia Loren medley. Very Italian appropriate for the Milan Olympics.
Jubi, jubi, ju.
Jubi, jubi, ju. It's so flirty. It's so cute. I love it on her. I think it's perfect for her. She didn't look as good here as she did at Cranberry Cup.
Yeah, she sat down one of the jumps and it looked, in general, a lot of the skaters here looked tired.
That's exactly it.
Champs Camp was a grind from everything that we understand. So I wasn't surprised to see a number of really steady skaters look a bit rough here because I think everybody was kind of exhausted.
Well, and that's the thing about Champs Camp. Obviously, I've never been personally, but everything I have ever heard about it is that it is kind of a grueling week for them. Like, it's great in the sense that you get the sense of camaraderie and a lot of, really good education, that you need, media training into an Olympic season, things like that. And a lot of feedback from elite judges who are being hard on them, and saying program is going to not work if you leave it like this, or you need to scrap this entirely in some cases. So it's a lot. And then they're doing this at the end of a full week of things like that. So yeah, you could definitely see the exhaustion on Isabeau and many others.
Yeah, I think I do want to note here, and this is just me kind of making a prediction, but both times that we've seen Isabeau skate this program, we've seen her in essentially workout clothes. She's been in this red athletic top and these black shorts that we saw her use in a exhibition program last season. And I saw some people comment at Cranberry Cup that they thought it was really unusual that she wasn't at least in a practice dress. Everybody else seemed to be, even if they were in old costumes or in practice outfits, they were still kind of attired for competition, and she didn't seem to be. My guess is that the actual outfit for this program, when it's finished, is going to look somewhat similar in the sense that I expect it's probably going to have some shorts, or it's going to have a very different kind of look for her. She has been such the elegant, pretty ice princess for so long, and we've seen her really start to play with different looks in exhibition. And so I think that the reason why she's wearing that now is that she's not going to be skating in a dress, so she doesn't want to be competing in something that doesn't feel like it.
I like that you have a theory about this.
I got a theory.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Next, Jason Brown. He did a segment of his long program that is going to be Say Something by Jacob Banks. I thought he looked gorgeous. And the footwork, I mean, it's always great because it's Jason Brown, but chef's kiss, just gorgeous, beautiful. The music, I'm not totally in love with it.
I don't like it at all. I really, really did not enjoy that music. I felt like that was one of those covers where you take a song that has a very specific sound, sort of a plaintive but emotional delivery with Say Something, and brought in somebody who
does the growl.
Yeah, well, they start off kind of mumble-coring their way through it, and then it becomes these big, growly, overdone, kind of theatrical kinds of big explosive moments that don't suit the song at all. And I found it really, really distracting. All of Jason's skating looks terrific, but I could not get over how much I disliked that musical performance. And for me, it took away a lot from my enjoyment. Now, this is a segmented version cut down essentially into a short program.
Once you see the full version or just get used to it, you may not be as bothered.
Yeah, I'm hoping that grows on me. But right now, all I could feel afterwards was irritated because that music grated on me so much, and that frustrates me with Jason Brown being such a terrific skater. I just don't like that song choice.
Yeah, I did not dislike it as hard as you did, but I think I was just distracted by how much Jason is amazing.
Sure.
Amber Glenn, we got to see her Like a Prayer program, and the cuts of the music were really interesting. It wasn't just the full song that we all know and love. There was a choral kind of element to it and a little bit of like strings here and there. And I really liked it. I thought that it used the parts of the song that we were all going to want to see. Whenever the let the choir sing, you get that whole moment with her, which gets you elated.
Yeah. The layout doesn't feel right yet, though.
I think she just is tired.
Yeah, I mean,
too.
that's entirely possible. I felt like she wasn't quite able to capitalize on the big crescendo in the music and that big uplift that comes into that end part of the song. I did like the music cut a lot. I thought that while it surprised me how much it kind of steered away from the actual Madonna vocals and just stuck with the choral parts, and so it missed some sections of the song that I would have liked to have heard in it, I think that it was well set up around her, and overall I think the program was pretty cool, but I just felt like there were several moments where it didn't set her up right to transition into the next thing that she needed to do, and that's probably just that it's still very new and still being refined and hasn't been competed yet. So I have a lot of confidence that this is going to be a really great program. And we know that she's also bringing back last year's free skate for this season too, which I have kind of mixed feelings about, but I understand how comfortable she feels in that one and wants to keep it, especially how well it performed at the World Team Trophy and at US Nationals.
And at the Grand Prix final that she won.
Right, yeah. So in the Olympic season, I totally get that. But yeah, I think this program is going to be something special. To me, it was just exhausted and a little rough here and didn't quite look like it was fully baked.
I agree with the not fully baked. The rest of it, I don't totally agree with, but that's okay. I was excited about it. I think she, especially when she got to the footwork sequence, you could see the joy she has with it. And that was very evident. And I feel like that's the most important part when I'm watching Amber is like, is she having fun? Is she enjoying it? Is she in the moment? And I think after a full week at Champs Camp, what we saw is still rough, but has, like you said, so much promise.
Yeah. And also at this point, she seems more comfortable jumping a triple axel than a double. So
I noticed that.
So when she does a double, it always kind of looks a little over rotated and a little out of balance because you can see the room in it for the triple. I always want to be like, Amber, just stop. Just throw those triple axels. This is what you're engineered for now. I understand why you're not doing it, but it just feels like now that's just who she is.
Yes. Alyssa Efimova and Maxim Mitrofanov debuted their Cloak and Dagger short program. I thought they looked phenomenal. They did not look as tired as many of the others. A little off here and there, and that definitely is a program that needs some love because it still felt a little thin in terms of what they were doing. That said, their presence together has just evolved so much. You can see how secure they are together as a team. And I was just so impressed watching, especially Misha. Alyssa has always been this very elegant. There's a reason she gets compared to Katya Gordieva a lot, which is about as big of a compliment as you can get.
Yeah, and put an asterisk on that because there's more about that coming up too. Yeah.
But Misha, when they first got together, I just didn't necessarily see his confidence the way I see it now. It's just really wonderful. And I have such hopes for this team, not just in this quadrennial, because we'll see if they even get to go to the Olympics. It's very unlikely, but regardless, going forward with them, I cannot wait to see what they do.
I agree that Misha just keeps improving all the time. He's leveled up so much. He also just looks fit. There's something about seeing him on the ice here where I'm like, I don't know specifically what the difference is, but the dude looks fit. I was noting that I think this short program to Cloak and Dagger has several dance elements and choreography elements that kind of take their cues from last year's free skate, which makes a lot of sense because that was so successful for them. And I kind of wondered if the strategy for them was to capitalize on what worked so well with their big moments out of that free and do that in the short to set them up really well going into the free skate.
Maybe.
And then that's where we're getting something I think that's going to be quite different, which is, here's where the asterisk is, because their free skate is going to essentially be a tribute to Katya Gordieva and Sergei Grinkov.
Yes. And even apparently their costumes are going to be, reminiscent of a program that Katya Gordieva and Sergei Grinkov did years ago. And they're even working with Katya. They have her blessing on it. I liked what Misha had said about it in that it's them leaning into, as opposed to away from all of those comparisons, embracing something that is so special and working alongside a figure skating legend to create your free program for an Olympic season is not nothing. It's really, really wonderful. And I cannot wait to see that free skate.
I think it's also, what is this, like going to be the 30th
anniversary of that program. So it's heartening. I am amongst many of a certain age that has that immense love of Gurdjieff and Grinkov. So I am very curious to see what this looks like.
Another really promising debut of a program, this time a long program here, is Andrew Torgashev's Apache medley. This looked really solid.
It looked good.
I feel
real
like
good.
when we talk about taking your cues from other successful programs, I think choreographically there's a lot of the Lanfear program that
Yes.
shows up in here and really leans into the things that we saw Torgashev do best. And considering how good a season he had last year until he completely folded at Worlds in that free skate, doing a free skate that is more engineered towards what he is really, really good at makes a ton of sense. This looks really sharp on him. Artistically, it fits him. He was one of the skaters who didn't look tired. He looked really strong going into this performance.
He looked hungry. And he needs to, because remember, that third spot on the Olympic team for the men is guaranteed because of how well Ilya and Jason Brown specifically did at the World Championships. So knowing we have 3, and that if you assume Ilya and Jason are getting 2 of those spots, that one spot, if you looked at the past few seasons, you'd think, okay, Andrew Torgashev is in really good shape for that. But both times he has gone to the World Championships in the past 2 years, he has folded. I hate saying that out loud because the rest of his season looked so good, but he's got to show that he can really do this in the big moments, because right on his heels, someone else who also looked hungry and super motivated is the man who has been in 4th place at nationals the past several years, Max Naumov.
Max Naumov's short program here to Frédéric Chopin's Nocturne number 20 is gorgeous.
It was my favorite thing I saw the whole show.
It was absolutely beautiful. And of course, we're also going into the season with the story behind Max. Of course, it's hard to ignore is that his parents were lost on the flight that crashed earlier this year. And that had an enormous impact on him and the Skating Club of Boston and on the sport in general. So you have a guy who...
He's carrying so much.
He's carrying so much. He's carrying the legacy of his Olympian parents. He's carrying all of his own hopes and dreams into this. He's carrying the goodwill of the community and the Club of Boston. And every time that we have seen him skate since all that happened, it has been fantastic.
It's amazing.
It's kind of astonishing to me how incredible he has skated every time that we have seen him since then, considering everything that has happened. And as we get into the rest of the season, I don't want to lean into that part of the story.
No, me
That's
neither.
so NBC package, but it's an undeniable part of the context of Max Naumov in this moment.
Yes.
And the adult man he has stepped up into in the wake of all of that tragedy. His artistry is shining now. And we always saw it before, he's always been so good. But watching him do this and knowing the training he's been doing overseas and him working with Adam Schaum-Fa as well and trying to do more interesting, challenging things, Max is a guy who is leveling up at a rapid pace. And it is well within possibility that he could be that third man. And what a story that would be.
It'd be incredible. I am very, very curious. I was talking about Lombardia. He's our other American man that's going to be there. So I'm super duper curious to see how he does throughout this season, because if he's going to be considered for that third spot, he has to be consistent in international competition. That doesn't mean he has to necessarily medal. It means he needs to show, hey, I can compete with these guys and I can go clean at competitions. Because then if he shows up at nationals and kills it the way he is entirely capable of, that makes him a very, very valid choice. And it's always about the previous few years, not just what you do on any given day. And I know that sometimes does not feel fair. But whenever you're selecting an Olympic team, it isn't just who's on that podium, but it's what they've done. And Max coming to Champs Camp and obviously doing extremely well, and then coming into Summer Sizzler, that all counts. That selection committee know what's happening here. So I'm real curious to see what we see from Max this season. because this program, it's gorgeous. It's absolutely gorgeous.
Well, and, like we were talking about a minute ago with Torgashev and just in general, you're always looking for the person who's going to step up in the right moment.
Exactly.
You're looking for the people.
You're looking for the Paul Wiley.
Yeah. You're looking for the Alyssa Liu, the Mikhail Shidorov, last season as well. The people that at the right moment bring it all together and excel under pressure. And you've got to look at this year for Max, and this is a person whose entire world changed, and that he is skating under the weight of tremendous tragedy and pressure and pain. And every time he takes the ice now, he's bringing joy and artistry and intention and meaning.
Intensity. So much intensity.
And if he goes the long haul through this season doing that, I feel like this is a guy who's been forged in the fire, right? He could really be that person who comes on incredibly strong right at the end. So
I hope so.
I'm just like sort of putting that pin in it is like what will happen with Max Naumov. And I'm really, really excited to watch that progression this year.
My heart is with him. Also, Christina Carreira and Anthony Ponomarenko we saw. We saw their rhythm dance, which is a medley of sweet dreams, not the eurythmic sweet dreams, but sweet dreams of rhythm and dancing.
Sweet dreams of rhythm and dancing.
I wanted to say it in the least rhythmic way.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, no, you can't help it. I mean, this is, yeah. And there's also with 100% Pure Love.
Oh my God, I love that song. I love that they picked it so hard.
Yeah. I think it's great that as two people who I believe were both born in the 2000s, they had to basically sit with a 90s music list and listen to a bunch of pop hits until they found some that just connected with them. And they just said as soon as they heard those songs, they were like, oh, those are the ones.
Well, especially 100% Pure Love. It's a Crystal Waters tune. I recommend checking it out on Spotify or whatever your preferred music platform is. It's always been a fave of mine from the 90s, and I think it suits them very well. Although I will say, you could tell that this was a new program.
Yeah, it was real rough around the edges. This thing has not been filed down yet.
No, that'll get there because it is complicated. Watching it, all I could think was, no wonder you guys are looking a little exhausted because I'm exhausted watching you. Well, this is a complicated program.
It's very, very complicated. You can tell that they are really pushing to show that they have the skills and chops and the complicated programs that the big leaguers can do.
Well, they moved up so much last season.
They did. But they are also the team who here at Champs Camp were told to scrap their free dance and start over completely because whatever they were doing before didn't work. And they were told in no uncertain terms that has to go. And so
that's got to be so brutal.
Yeah. So they were inventing something new on the fly while they were there that apparently that the US Fed judges and officials liked a lot better. But I can imagine that had a big impact on them getting this short program ready because they were really scrambling to make something else work while they were there.
My gosh. Oh, it just stresses me out even thinking about it. Bradie Tennell, she skated her short program that's going to be to Young and Beautiful by Lana Del Rey. This is the best I have ever seen Bradie look.
Yes. Yes.
She looked amazing, and this program suited her beautifully.
Yeah.
Like, it felt meaningful. Sort of like we know Bradie is retiring at the end of the season, like we've talked about with Kaori Sakamoto, and Wakaba Higuchi's also retiring. Bradie's in that same boat, and their Purdue programs feel very reminiscent of that feeling. I feel like this Lana Del Rey song is that for her. There is something like someone saying goodbye in a very interesting way.
I've talked about plenty in previous episodes that stylistically, I've always had a hard time connecting to Bradie Tennell. I've not always really liked her skating a ton, but I was so impressed with her last season. She really came on strong after being pretty hampered by injury. And, I wasn't sure how well she was going to perform. And by the end of the season, she was cracking huge numbers and was on the podium at 4 continents and was just really doing a great job. This is the based on one performance of it, is the most I've ever enjoyed a program from her. I love the costume that she has for it. I think it suits her really, really well. The music, even though I don't really like Lana Del Rey all that much, it works on her. It works on her very, very nicely. And it really combines the strength of her technicality and her jumps with a more noticeable musicality than I'm used to seeing with her. I was really surprised by how much I liked that program.
It had depth and maturity that a lot of the skaters just don't. And when I saw that, it reminded me, like, this is not a given in terms of the Olympic team. Like, just because we have Amber, Isabeau, and our world champion, Elyce Lou, nothing is a guarantee. And Bradie is fighting. And this is part of her fight.
Yes. And I think this could really make things interesting based on some of those other programs that we've seen and not seen yet. Because if her free skate looks as good as that does, I think Bradie will really be in contention.
Absolutely. Another wonderful woman from the US, Elyce Lin-Gracey. She is keeping her, I'm assuming based on the fact that she used it, Broken Vow short program. I thought she looked lovely. I've seen her do this program better than she did it here, but again, tired.
It makes a lot of sense for her to hold on to some of the stuff that worked so well for her early last season.
Yep.
You know, she came out the gate in the Challenger Series last year with one of the highest scores of the season. I mean, she was phenomenal early out, but then didn't perform as well through the rest of the season. And I think that her training that season seemed to really make her peak early. And so I'm hoping that her team is reworking how they're approaching this season to
pacing.
Yeah, to make her more viable towards the end of the season. Elyce has everything, you know?
She does.
She is a beautiful skater. Her glide, her movement, it's all so nice. This looked a little tired and wasn't quite as strong as we've seen other times, but I'm just hoping we get to see more of her this season and we get to see more of what it looked like at the beginning of last season because the promise of her skating is so high.
Absolutely. We saw a debut from Emily Chan and Spencer Howe here. Their short program, I believe, to something called Lady Caliph Nocturne, performed by Yo-Yo Ma. Oh, I hate doing this, but I'm just going to say I kind of forgot it, which makes me feel terrible because I do really like Emily and Spencer. But just in the last few days, I'm struggling to even remember it.
It looked very rough in places. A lot of the pairs elements were just kind of okay. If I remember correctly, the side-by-sides were actually pretty strong, but they might have only been doing doubles. Or that,
see what I mean?
Or that might have been McBeath and Parkman who were, now I'm kind of confused with all of it as well.
I even reference Katie McBeath and Danielle Parkman here as well, because they did a program to something called Veil, and I barely remember that too. I feel terrible because, again, really like Katie McBeath and Danielle Parkman. The one thing I remember is being really impressed with them and also feeling like I'm waiting for their identity to rear up because I feel like they're a strong team that doesn't have an identity, whereas I feel like Chen and Howe do.
Yeah, Chen and Howe have a more distinctive artistic identity for sure than McBeath and Parkman. I will say that Danielle Parkman's footwork in the lifts is so good. So strong. And I love Katie's energy out there.
Me too.
And even though I don't think the program that they were doing there to something called Veil, it was a short program, I don't think it was super memorable. And I think still because they don't have an artistic flair that really sets them apart when you look at other teams and there are teams that we didn't get to see here perform at the Sizzler. You know, we didn't see Ellie, Cam, and Danny O'Shea, probably because Danny is still probably recovering from his foot injury.
I would assume, yeah.
That'd be my guess. We did not see Audrey Shin and Balazs Naz here either.
Although I heard they were great here. I heard that they had a very successful champs camp.
Well, and they were selected to be the team sent to the September qualifying event for the Olympics. So that shows a level of confidence in where they've evolved in order to go hunting for that spot. So that's a really interesting choice for them to be that team, but for us not to have seen them here. So we're missing a few pieces in that puzzle based on what the Sizzler was showing us. But yeah, again, Shannon Howe, I like the musical choice on them. And I think that when this gets a little bit more polished, it will probably look really good on them, but it didn't seem like it quite came together yet. And in a kind of a little bit of a similar vein, I was really hyped to see Sarah Everhardt on the ice here again. She has that really fun river dance-esque program with the Irish step dancing in it. And this is the only time I think I can ever remember seeing Sarah Everhardt fall.
I know.
Sarah Everhardt does not fall.
She is probably the most consistent woman in the U.S.
Yeah. So, I mean, get it out of your system here.
Exactly.
And also worth noting, small club in spotlights.
That's what I kept thinking too. Like anyone who was having problems, all I kept thinking was you're in spotlights in a club and doing competitive programs. How hard is that? Because that feels like it's extra hard to me.
There were a ton of times where I just saw extremely bright glares, and in a big arena, the lighting isn't as close to the skater and so isn't as sharp. You know, it's not as intense. It softens with distance. And here it just seemed like kind of glaring, and I just wondered if that really messed with people. but Sarah both had that same kind of tired look that we saw in a few people and a little bit of uncertainty sometimes while she was out there. I'm guessing that it had more to do with that than anything else. But I was shocked. I was shooketh when she fell. I was so surprised because just there are two people who don't ever seem to fall, and that's Sarah Everhardt and Alyssa Liu. And
Alyssa didn't fall, though.
Alyssa did not fall. No, Alyssa looked great.
But she also wasn't doing a competitive program.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's a challenging program. You can see it's a challenging program for
for
Sarah.
sure.
So, and there were still lots of it that looked great. It was just her on the ice. I was like, what? She fell? That never happens.
Okay, only a few more. Let's talk about Jimmy Mauve because he did his short program to Cyber Phoenix, and I freaking love this program.
Hell yes, man.
I know we're unabashed love affair with Jimmy Ma is very apparent. We are big hype people for Jimmy.
This short program works so well on him.
It's so good.
It does the combination of things that I think always work really great with Jimmy Ma, which is that you have those orchestral, symphonic, softer elements that then lead into something that's a little bit more modern and techno-y or EDM. Blending those things together seems to look really good on him. This program already feels like there's a level of comfort and identity in there that matches Jimmy really well. I thought he performed it super well. The trouble with Jimmy Ma is always consistency across programs. You never know what you're going to get from him in competition. But as the thing he's going to lead off his competitions with this as a short program, I think it's a great, strong start. Looks so good here. Super hyped for it.
I cannot wait.
And again, keeping it interesting for the U.S. men in that hunt for the third spot because Jimmy is not going down without a fight.
That would be so exciting. But I have no idea what to think there, so I'm going to keep going.
Yeah.
Two more. Caroline Green and Michael Parsons, who are absolutely on the bubble for the third spot in the dance as well. And they did not do a competitive program. They did their exhibition to Sunset Boulevard, which is so fun and theatrical. And I love that, again, they did the black and white intro from the backstage onto the ice for Michael, where he's mouthing the words. And you have so many asides from other skaters.
There's cameos. Yeah.
Yeah.
He gets a big hug from Misha. Who
are the ones that were fighting?
Oh, that was Elyce Lin-Gracey and Sarah Everhardt are literally having a
slap fest.
Yeah. They're jumping off of benches and stuff at each other in the background. Meanwhile, Jimmy Ma slapping him on the butt. And, he just has all of this fun little interactions. We've seen him do it before. It was really fun here. And Michael does a beautiful Bauer onto the ice as he enters in as well before
Michael's
taking a spot.
Just really good.
He's really, really good.
I mean, so is Caroline. No offense.
Oh my gosh. Caroline Green. There was a little bit of fun social media stuff a week or so ago was Caroline Green and Christina Carreira releasing a video where they were doing together a classic Virtue and Moore piece. And I believe Christina was even wearing Tessa's dress from that thing. It's so good, and particularly it's so good because of Caroline Green's expressions, because there's no more expressive face in all of skating than her. She's like a cartoon character. She has such a range of expression, and her eyes are so big and sells so well from a distance, and she really served Scott Moir faces in that. It's so fun.
I want to use that somehow, serving Scott Moir.
Yeah.
Throughout the season.
I mean, if you're going to serve somebody, that's a really good choice.
It is.
Right?
It's not bad.
Yeah. But super fun. Their performance here to Sunset Boulevard was great. But yeah, not seeing any new competition stuff, so we don't know what they have coming for us.
And last but goodness not least, Starr Andrews. She performed her Fur Elise short program. It was last year's short program, and I'm pretty sure she has a new one planned. But again, this was the end of Champs Camp, so maybe there was just so many changes or something. But regardless, her Fur Elise is gorgeous, and every time you get to watch Starr Andrews skate is a treat. So,
yeah. And I think she was the leadoff skater at this event. So she was the one who had to kick off the entire event, which is kind of a lot of pressure.
Yes.
At something like this, but always with Starr, just terrific artistry, immense musicality. there were some places in this skate where it felt like she was getting a little lost in the spotlights as well, because there was a few spots where I felt like she didn't quite know where she was at times. And we don't know what her full jumping arsenal is going to look like once we get into the regular season. But we look back at how well she performed at nationals.
Oh my gosh, her free skate. Wow.
Dynamite. And again, Starr is one of those people that is pretty far back when you look at the average scores and what she's capable of.
Like her technical ceiling, you mean?
Yeah, her technical ceiling is going to limit her as far as being in that competition for one of those Olympic spots. But when you want to look at a skater that brings so much artistry and expression and just elegance on the ice, Starr is fantastic.
The thing that makes me sad when I watch Starr is that I wish there was still a professional, in quotes, circuit.
Like a pro skate circuit.
What basically a competitions and shows that actually happen after you decide to retire from amateur competition. And I'm using old terms because those don't really exist anymore. But
yeah. I mean, there is the adult skater type of roots and stuff, but
not like it was in like the 90s and the 2000s where you could still watch a Michelle Kwan long after she wasn't competing at Worlds and the Olympics, or for the oldies like me back in the 90s when there was a world professional figure skating championship. It was exciting because you still got that opportunity to see skaters who may not have had the technical ceiling, but could win those competitions because they were more focused on the performance value than how many jumps you did. And it makes me sad because Starr would have been the absolute peak of that. She is amongst those people. It's the same way I feel when I watch Denise Vasilyevs. It's like they bring so much that an audience would love to watch. If you show someone who doesn't understand figure skating at all a Starr Andrews program, they're going to enjoy it.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like there's a lot of more technically proficient skaters who you're going to show that to, and they're potentially going to lose interest or just be like, that was nice. Whereas they'll feel something watching Starr.
Yeah, no, that's a great way to put it. And I agree that her tremendous talent is lost a little bit just because of not having that big jump arsenal in a field where, we're seeing a lot of women this season doing what we kind of thought they would, which is try to level up to some of those ultra Cs,
Yeah.
Like we've seen Japan's Rinka Watanabe landing quad sows.
I'm so excited.
Practice.
And she's saying she's going to do triple axels in both short and long and quad sow in that long as well. So another person who is not going down without a fight. She is trying to make that Olympic team in her last competitive season, and she's going for it. I love her for it.
Yeah. And Amber Glenn is that example of a skater who in her 20s
leveled
up and solidified the triple axel and does it beautifully. And it's not always entirely under control, but now
it kind of is.
Now it's like probably the best jump in her entire program. And for the longest time, it feels like you'll see young skaters, particularly in women's, get all their ultra Cs when they're like teenagers. And then as they get older, they start losing those. And now we're seeing a lot of these women. It's like seeing last year Elyce Lin practicing on the ice before Worlds and was trying out triple axels in practice when she wasn't going to do them on the ice in competition.
She's making sure everybody knows she's working on it.
Yeah. And if she starts landing those this season when she's already been so good, oh my God, we want to see that ceiling get raised, and we want to see it done safely and in a way that's going to be healthy for both the skaters and the sport. But it is so exciting when you see somebody like a Rinka Watanabe going out there and being like, why not? Not even a quad toe, a quad sow.
It's interesting. And edge jumps just are probably preferred. But that said, I'm just stoked to see what everyone's going to bring. But I do wish that there was more room for the Jason Browns of the world, the Starr Andrews, the Denise Vasilyevs, to kind of go back to that. I wish there was something for both, that those scores were treated similarly, because like watching Jason do his footwork and it not getting, I mean, as so many skaters have said, they watch what Jason does and they're like, that's harder than a quad.
Yeah.
But it's not treated like a jump. I don't know where I'm going with this other than I'm excited to see everybody, but I do wish that it was scored more in different ways.
Yeah, well, and I do look forward to, if this stays the way, as I understand the change to the rules and the program layouts going into the season following the Olympics, when the free skates for the single skaters are going to remove a jumping pass.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting.
In order to lessen the demand on their bodies from those big elements, but also to allow for more artistic expression and for that type of skating to become important again. Because what we've seen is the demands of things like the intense amount of features required in spins. A lot of people feel like the spins don't look as attractive anymore because there's just too much going on in them, and that the programs are so cluttered with all of these requirements. And I don't always necessarily agree with that. I think when you see the best skaters, they're skating so well with all those things that the requirements kind of become invisible outside of just the jumping passes. But I think that diminishing that dependence on the jumps and allowing that room to do things that are a little bit more expressive and more artistic, and I think will bring a lot more aesthetic into the skates. I think especially for the men, I think that'll be a positive thing. But that is not happening until after the Olympics because it didn't make sense for them to change all of it leading into that.
I'm so glad. And you actually reminded me of the last thing I want to say about Summer Sizzler before I'm done. Speaking of Jason Brown, he did one of the things that I haven't seen somebody do in a competitive program in forever, which is a spiral all the way around the ice.
And it was so good.
It was so good. And I was like, oh my God, it's not just quick spiral and then into something else as a transitional move. It was letting that spiral breathe. And I hope he keeps that as is because it warmed my heart. It was so good.
Yeah. And that's the kind of things that we want to see again, kind of post this season returned a little bit. That room to do those things that are crowd pleasers and just bring that energy and artistic flair to the ice. And of course, Jason Brown is so good that it looks that good.
It does.
Yeah. Well, that wraps up. And we talked a lot more about Summer Sizzler than I thought we were going to.
There's a lot of people to talk about.
There was, and a lot of new stuff to kind of examine there. What's next for us? What are we talking about next time?
Well, I think next week is the John Nix Pairs Challenge. So yeah, we're going to see Shinaj there. I'm not sure who else, but I did see that Cam and O'Shea did withdraw from that. So we're not going to get to see them yet. But it is our first look at a pairs competition in the seniors this season. So we will be talking a little bit about that. And I'm thinking we'll probably, even though we're not really covering juniors this year, I think we're probably going to talk a little bit about a few things in juniors, particularly some of the big stars that we're seeing and what they're doing, like Rio Nakata.
We've seen a little bit of what's going on in the Junior Grand Prix. And while we don't typically spend a lot of time in juniors, except for usually Grand Prix final and Junior Worlds, the stuff that we're seeing coming out of that right now, particularly Rio Nakata, who is such a talent and so exciting and just was dominating in his competition. Yeah, I think that we'll probably cover a little bit of that in there too.
Cool.
Well, yeah. So look forward to that one. And for Scoreography, I'm Adrian Buskey.
And I'm Wendy Buskey.
And we will talk to you next time.
Bye.